An Act of Parliament ended slavery in the British Empire on August 1st, 1834. But not really. Enslaved persons in the British Empire would still have to work an additional 4 or 6 years. This period was called apprenticeship. Planters feared most apprentices would leave once fully free, so some took this time to search for another reliable labor source. This is the story of the Indian Arrival Monument. Immigrants were brought into the colony under a legal agreement, called a contract, to work for a fixed period, usually 5 years. This contract or agreement with the worker and plantation owner was called an indenture, and the workers, indentured workers, or indentured immigrants. The system they worked under was called indentureship. Planters saw immigrant workers as a way to maintain control and keep plantation wages down. Planters sourced workers from the West Indies and Portuguese from Madeira. Then, a British businessman wrote a letter. On January 4, 1836, John Gladstone, a merchant from Liverpool and owner of several plantations, wrote the Calcutta recruiting firm, Gillanders, Arbuthnot and Company, about the possibility of obtaining Indian workers for his estates. I observed by a letter, received a few days ago from Mr. Arbuthnot, that he was sending a considerable number of a certain class of Bengalese to be employed as labourers to the Mauritius. By the 19th and 20th centuries, Indian indentured workers were immigrating to different parts of the world, chiefly to Ceylon, now called Sri Lanka, Mauritius, Fiji, Malaya, Natal, and later Suriname. Gladstone further wrote, "You will probably be aware that we are very particularly situated with our Negro apprentices in the West Indies, and that it is a matter of doubt and uncertainty how far they may be induced to continue their services on the plantations after their apprenticeship expires." The firm said they saw no recruiting problems, the natives being perfectly ignorant of the place they agree to go or the length of the voyage they are undertaking. Gladstone eventually obtained permission from both the Colonial Office and the Board of Control of the East India Company to bring in labourers from India. On May 5, 1838, 396 Indian labourers arrived in British Guyana on the steamships Whitby and Hesperus under a 5-year contract. Only 22 were women. Workers were sent to Gladstone's estates, Vredenhoop and Vredenstein, and also plantations Highbury and Waterloo in Berbice, Bellevue, West Bank Demerara, and Anna Regina on the Essequibo coast. From 1838 until 1917, roughly 238,979 Indians landed in Guyana from the ports of Calcutta and Madras in India. Around 65,538 labourers returned to India after their work agreement was finished. By 1917, Indians made up 42% of the Guyanese population. Villagers left their Mathrubhumi, motherland, for different reasons. Unemployment, poverty, and famine were some of the main reasons Indian workers left to find a better life. Indentured workers came mostly from North India, with smaller batches coming from the Tamil and Telinga districts in the Madras-Chennai Presidency. In North India, the main areas they came from were the northwestern provinces and Oudh, now Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Bengal. In South India, the main areas were Madras, Madura, Ganjam, and Vizagapatam. For the first 20 years, many hill coolies from the Chota Nagpur highland area also became indentured immigrants. Indian villagers were picked by professional recruiters. They operated just outside a town or near wells, railway stations, bazaars, festivals, bridges, and places of worship. Recruiters usually targeted victims in desperate situations, often lying and overselling the benefits of the immigration scheme. A notice to intending immigrants to Demerara or British Guyana promised light work, good wages, and employment for their children. Further stating, The climate of Demerara is better adapted for the Indian coolie than that of his native country. It has not the extreme heat of India, nor is so cold. The country abounds with pure water, and fruits and tropical vegetables flourish to a degree almost unknown elsewhere. No interference is allowed with the religion of the immigrants, and both Hindus and Mohammedans are protected in the free exercise of their respective creeds. The journey to British Guyana was grueling. Overcrowded ships, food shortages, and lack of fresh water resulted in waterborne diseases such as cholera, dysentery, and diarrhea. On arrival in British Guyana, indentured Indians quickly came under the rigid discipline of the plantation system, leaving them helpless and dependent. This situation was often quite different from what was promised. Located at the T-junction just off the Berbice River Bridge, the Indian Arrival Monument overlooks the village of Palmyra, East Berbice, Corentyne. A collaboration between the governments of Guyana and India, the impressive 160 million mounted bronze structure was born from another collaboration between Guyanese artist Philip Gajadar and Winslow Craig. Artist Philip Gajadar describes some of the meaning behind the design.
Sure, it's in itself, it shows 6 figures. And these figures, they are in a forward thrust, more or less, you know. And basically it describes the life of ordinary Indian people in the routine in the everyday routine. Each one of them carrying something of importance. You know, they brought with them on the ship. The ship is called what you call the bandal, which is a bundle, and usually that was referred to as the Jahaji bandal, which means the ship bundle. It is symbolic in the sense that that bundle is loaded with food, spice, herbs, you know, clothing, all the things, including their gods and religious texts and utensils and all those things that they need, that they would have needed them to adjust to the new life.
The figures are made up of 2 men, 2 women, and a boy. The leading male figures are Ram and Khan, who are said to be the first 2 indentured Indians to set foot in Guyana, a Muslim and Hindu. If you look carefully, their positions urge the other figures forward, celebrating the deep bond they all share. The entire sculpture reflects on the human condition in the past and present, tying our lives to history. The next time you journey over the Berbice Bridge, stop at Palmyra and reflect on how our ancestors risked everything for the chance of a better life.